I'm going where there's bare soil, bare opening soil, because alligator junipers like full sun and bare soil for germinating. And there's a lot of places with bare soil in here. A little moist in there. Whoa! Come and look at this. There's a bear that turned over this log. Yesterday, somewhere down there, I saw a rock that was turned over by a bear. And when we were coming up here, there were two deer, one a really nice buck coming up here. And swivel around up there, take a look. Up there we've got ponderosa pine, and the kind of bluish is white fir. There's also some Douglas fir mixed in, and some Rocky Mountain Juniper. And Rocky Mountain Juniper is the northward extension of the cousin of alligator. Alligator goes down into Mexico. And what I've seen elsewhere is that when the Rocky Mountain Juniper can't live there anymore, the Alligator Juniper will be there. So like you'll be on a ridge and there'll be White Fir and Rocky Mountain Juniper, and then boom, over on the south-facing side, 50 feet away, you'll have just alligators and maybe a few pondies. So I just got two more chunks to get rid of here. Not get rid of, to ceremonially bury. I think I ate a total 10, so average 3 or 4, and then 30 times. So over 100 seeds between yesterday down there and today up here. All right, here's the last. All right. Work well done. Now I just have to get some dirt to clean this out with. There'll be more. There'll be more. So we're just packing up. Michael's here. We're just packing up, and I noticed from this area that I'd been working in, look what we walked right by. That is a dead Rocky Mountain Juniper. If that is not symbolic, I don't know what is.
Not fully dead.
Not fully dead, but it'll appreciate a little assistance from cousin alligator. I will be back. These are 100 juniper berries from 2 of the 6 specimens Michael and I collected seeds from under in early November 2015. Today is July 24th, 2016. It's almost lunchtime, and I am going to chew these berries, extract from them in doing so the 3 or 4 or 5 seeds per berry. Okay, it's 1:30 in the afternoon. I've just finished chewing slightly the soaked berries And there you can see the husks off to the left side there. I estimate there's about 350 seeds there, and so I'll be swallowing them very soon in this. This morning I marinated the local beef, locally produced beef from a rancher here in New Mexico yesterday, and then turned it into a stew with lentils and yams. So that's how I'm going to ingest these. I estimate about 350 seeds. You can see some of them still have a little bit of husk on them, but I just chewed a few times. You don't want to crack your teeth. And then sorted them out. There were a few berries that were duds, and that one right there was one of 3 that had mold in it. You can tell right away, so you just spit those out. But the rest were just fine. They'd been dried underneath the tree before I collected them and then kept dry. Most had 3 seeds. I'd say 80% of them had 3 seeds in them. Some had 4, and a very few had 5, and maybe one even had 6. Time to eat. July 25th, 2016. I'm going to set up shop here temporarily in the shade of this Rocky Mountain Juniper. These small little blueberries are first year. It takes 2 years to ripen. This female tree, and it looks really healthy to produce all these berries. Let's take a swivel around. This is where the action's going to happen. All right, downslope here. There's another Rocky Mountain Juniper right in the center of the camera there. Another one I see there, but mostly gamble oak. Oh, here's another one here. In fact, let me just look around. Quite a few Rocky Mountain Junipers here. Upslope, as I was walking in, I could see if I can get this here. Really healthy Rocky Mountain Juniper up there. Gamble oaks get bigger up there, and that tall one, I'm going to guess, is a Douglas Fir. But swiveling around here, I'm setting up shop because I'm beginning to feel the call. It's about, probably about 11:30. Took me an hour to walk here from where we're house sitting. And this kind of slope with open, a lot of patches of bare soil, and yet Rocky Mountain Junipers do well here. Oh, there's a little ponderosa. This is about as low as they go down here. Rocky Mountain Junipers are capable to hang in a little bit longer. But this is where I am going to plant, Coyote style, Alligator Juniper. This is the southern cousin, closest cousin of Rocky Mountain Juniper. They overlap. I've experienced them 25 years ago quite often in the Gila in southwest New Mexico. They've overlapped there. But certainly not in the same microsite. At elevations about 6,000 feet or so, I only saw them in ravines where it was cooler and moister, and the alligators were right out on the slope. I cannot tell the difference between the foliage. I see more foliage distinctions within each of the 2 species, the alligators and the Rocky Mountains, than I do between them. But certainly the seeds, as I recall, the seeds are quite a bit smaller, and they taste like, well, what you'd think juniper seeds taste like. They taste like juniper berries, like gin. Alligators, au contraire, are very sugary. You don't taste that at all, and so they're quite a fine food. The bears, the coyotes, and I'm sure the indigenous peoples would preferentially gather them and inadvertently spread them. But here we are. This is probably a little over 8,000 feet where I'm standing here, and that valley's probably a little over 8,000 feet too. The darker green in there is the moist areas with the sedges. We haven't had rain here for almost 4 weeks, maybe just a little sprinkle. But I'm just going to be waiting for the call of nature here. And then I'm going to be introducing alligator junipers to a new area for it. But there are places where it grows very sporadically, due west and due east of here. So we're about the same latitude. This is not a northward range expansion so much as it's a population rescue. The Sandia Peak, east side of Sandia Peak, alligator junipers by Albuquerque, where I collected them along with my husband. We explored and collected from, we only found 6 trees, or maybe 7, that had berries, and I was astonished. The berries were quite voluminous beneath the trees. I would have thought the coyotes would have gotten them all. And it's now going to be time to plant them out and thereby do an assisted population migration. I would call it an assisted population rescue. I may or may not decide to show this, but here's, the flies are already here. But you can see several seeds already poking through. And over here I've gathered some flat rocks and old pieces of wood to be able to carry portions down. And unlike Coyote, I'm not burying it just in one spot. Shallow burial, chunks of it, so that not too many seeds are together. And I will be setting up my camera for doing the burial. This is a little too, the kind of silty mudstone in there and over there is a little bit too erosive. I don't want to plant anything there. But where I get closer to these patches of trees and over on that slope there, where I just find nice bare patches in between shrubs, this is where I'm going to look for spots. All right, alligators, let's do it. Time for a little rain dance. Two of the rocks that I picked up in order to possibly use as a flat space for carrying the precious poop around, I didn't use, and it turns out these are the first fossils I've seen in this area. I'll show a close-up picture of them now as I'm talking. And I don't know what age this is, but I was very glad to find them because I found them, you'll see some places, especially over there, where it's very eroded. There's nothing growing there, or very few things growing. And I think it's because of this silty mudstone, very platy, shaly. This area is not at all overgrazed. It's beautiful. But where you have patches of this, I think on this steep a slope, it's very hard for it to hold on. So anyway, I was glad to see that. The other thing that I found along the way was a beautiful piece of, I think it's calcite. I'll show a close-up of this one too. I'll also show in a moment the surrounds up here. I've got a beautiful Rocky Mountain Juniper right behind here. but I'd say maybe 2/3 of the precious poop I actually took uphill and buried it, just again below the surface, bare soil, but sometimes within a gamble oak area, sometimes along the edge, always trying to put it in a place where if it's on a slope, maybe a rock could prevent the erosion of it. So we'll see, quite a ways up in here, and then of course down there where I filmed. One other thing I'd like to mention is today is July 25th, 2016, and I'm dedicating this particular video to my mom, who had to deal with my precious poop when I was a little kid. Exactly 18 years ago, she died very early in the morning on the 25th, actually during the night, and I was privileged to be the one with her as she chose to die the way she wished to die. So that was 18 years ago, and I am wearing one of my mom's shirts. I inherited all these wonderful shirts and shoes from her. She kept things going for a long time. I do too. And this one is probably so old that once it had a sticker on the back, it would have been made in the USA. So thank you, Mom, for taking care of me, and just letting you know that poop is still precious. Here you can see the erosive area in front that had that silty, platy mudstone in it. But later this evening, when the sun gets low, this is looking west here, due west just about, I'm going to go over and explore that. Let me see what they look like here. I'm wondering if that, I'm pretty sure that's a sudden aspen death. So we'll go take a look at that. Also, you can see a lot of conifers on that slope. East-facing slopes are not quite as good as north-facing slopes, but they're the next best. So this would be an east-facing slope. I'm on a kind of a west-facing slope right here. South-facing is the worst. Look at that. That would be the south-facing slope. Now, that probably had a fire on it. I don't know, but it's such a stark difference between the, looks to me like shrubby gamble oak, probably squaw bush too, able to grow there, and then the conifers off to the right. So we'll go exploring a little later, and I suspect, given that I'm going to be eating some cabbage and some celery and a lot of fruit here today while I sit in the shade and read a book, I suspect I'll be able to distribute a few more alligator seeds along the way. Here's that almost dead Rocky Mountain Juniper where 3 days ago Michael worked the camera while I distributed some precious poop that happened to have some alligator seeds in it into that area. So you can see we get a lot of sun here. Next opportunity I have, I'm going to put some on that south-facing slope directly ahead of us there. Probably amidst the bushes over on that side. But here's where I just came from. Here's the hillock, and then I was on just around the corner on that west-facing side of it, a ways up. And the way you can tell is just east of the shadow there. There's that looks like sudden aspen death. I can't be sure, but cottonwoods or aspens, something in there. Anyway, I'm retreating now because it's about 12:30. I'm retreating now to this hillock, which is the highest one there is. You can't see the top of it here, but this is a north-facing slope. The sun's directly above me right here, and this one here will give me the coolest area to be in. And there's ponderosa pines in the foreground there. Looks like a White Fir. Anyway, I'm going to be exploring this area to see whether the pondies, the White Firs, the Rocky Mountain Junipers, and the Douglas Firs are showing any signs of stress and whether they're reproducing. And what is it about this boundary area here why is it just kind of solid trees in there? And then we've just got this boundary area that turns into shrubs and grasses. See if I can figure that out. But meanwhile, let me do a full turn around here. That's back to that little Rocky Mountain Juniper dead center there. So that's the 22nd where some alligators got planted inadvertently. And over towards this area here, just beyond that Gamble Elk Grove and below it is where on the 21st I really lucked out and was able to plant the first set of seeds. Not very many in that because I was just testing to make sure my digestive system wasn't going to rebel against it. But look at what we've got. I'm sure hoping, because when you plant seeds like that, I think they're ready to go. Wouldn't it be nice if we can actually get some rain here? It's been well over 3 weeks since we've had any substantial rain. So here's hoping. That's the sound of raindrops. And I took shelter underneath this Douglas Fir. There it is right here. Sure hope it keeps raining. I've got a big, oh gosh, a big black garbage bag here in case it starts to really rain. But Douglas Fir is just much better than ponderosa pine, which is where I had been sitting, for shedding water. So I hope it keeps coming down. After the rain, here's the Douglas fir tree where I was sitting to the right of the trunk there. And I noticed there's several years worth of cones under there. I have no idea whether the seeds were viable, but it certainly has reproduced here. Oh, in fact, here's a little cone. Yeah, there. See it right in the center of the picture there? It has 2 side bracts and 1 bract, and it hangs down. It's not, Douglas fir is not a true fir. Its cones hang down. White fir, I'll show that a little later, is a true fir. So unfortunately the rain, I mean, it got the dirt a little wet. The Gamble oak leaves definitely got wet, but I'd say we were lucky if it was even 1/10 of an inch. But the clouds are still here. The wind has died down, and so I'm going to do a bit of a survey of the health of trees here, especially whether the young ones are growing. So here's ponderosa pine where I've been sitting at. See, it's about as tall as it's probably going to get. Ponderosa pines, when they're in the open like this and they don't have to compete for height, they'll just stay fairly low and not stress themselves with having to move water up that high. But what I did notice is straight in front here, we've got a baby ponderosa pine here, growing shaded by this. I don't know, this is not squaw bush. I do not know what kind of a shrub this is. This seems to be the dominant small-leaved shrub. And Gamble oak is the one that's the taller trees. So the shrub I wasn't able to identify. I've got a new possibility here. This is the one that mixes in with the Gamble oak. See those downward pointing bells? That means it's family Ericaceae. Huckleberries are in there, genus Uliginosum. I have no idea, but at least I've got it down to a family here. But we've also got here several more ponderosa pines. One in the foreground, 2, 3. And as I rotate around here, there's another healthy ponderosa pine tree. And out there ahead are 2, maybe a third one, but definitely 2 baby ponderosa pines out ahead. There's also, now this one's really exciting, look at this. Again, using gamble oak as kind of a nurse tree here, getting the sun to the east. This is a lovely little Douglas Fir. So let's get a little closer to it here. Looks very healthy to me. I wouldn't expect to see a Douglas Fir. Here, when you go like this, it's not a spruce because it's just nice and soft. I wouldn't expect to see a Douglas Fir out there where I see the little ponderosa pine right in the center and then another one right there in the center. Ponderosa pine can take drier. Now, this subspecies of Douglas Fir is very different from those of us, myself included, who first really encountered Douglas Fir in coastal Washington, Oregon, California. But the subspecies out here in the interior, it's called the interior Douglas Fir, cannot inhabit quite as dry as ponderosa pine, but it's pretty surprising as to how dry it can get. So already on scouting around, there's a couple places I want to show here. First of all, you'll notice that that is a ponderosa pine in the center, that short squat one. Ponderosa pine, long 3 needles over on the left. But those trees there, the ones that look like glorious Christmas trees, those are the white firs. They look very healthy here. I'm going to walk this way because there is a baby white fir right over here along this edge. And what's interesting is you'll see that this white fir got kind of a nurse tree there, giving it some shade when it was young. But notice that the slope, it's flat here and it's grass, and up there, boom, you get trees. The slope goes up. So that must mean something. Here we have a couple struggling ponderosa pines. And let's see if we've got elk damage on these in terms of these look like good ones for elk to use. Yeah, possibly right there. This is what, they need to, the bucks need to scrape off their antlers. Oh, certainly over here, take a look at this. Fresh one on the right stem. And then the center stem has some older, oh yeah, and up there too, this one that's dying. So, the elk, I guess, feel that they can rub the velvet off their antlers, and yet they feel pretty safe here because if something comes along, of course in this country, I don't know what that something would be that could possibly scare a bull elk. They've got plenty of room to run. So let's take a look closer. Oh, now here's interesting. I'll get a little closer here because you'll see the huge difference in color and leaf form that the white firs have. Right there, that is a white fir. And these two here that look blue, that is a white fir, and also this green one next to it. In fact, let's go close to these here because here you'll be able to see a difference. I've noticed a difference in the leaf form of these. The blue ones seem to have longer, what you might call needles, but they're very soft. There's no pointiness on them, flat and soft. They tend to be pretty spectacular. And the green forms, the needles just aren't as long, aren't quite as spectacular. So I don't know what that means. I don't think there's two subspecies of white fir, but who knows? The genetics are probably quite different. But they all have this wonderful Christmas tree type form here. So I'm going to walk up this way. As I recall, I found something pretty interesting up this path. Oh, here's another really beautiful white fir. Look at the layerings it have, and there's the bark. Layerings come out like this. Ah, here. So here's another beautiful one of the blue kind of the white firs here. But look at what's right below it. This is a little seedling. They don't clonally put up little things from their roots like genus populus does. But that would be a seedling white fir. Let's see what else we can find here. In fact, I'm going to look for some Dougies. See what we can find. And here's a Douglas Fir going up right here. Douglas Fir, and the reason I wanted to point this out is that it looks like it has probably given birth to two babies here. Here's a baby right in the center of the picture. Douglas Fir. And there's another one right over here. This is a baby too. Baby Douglas Fir. Right up above it is a couple of white firs. And then just to the right of it here, this stem, it's very similar when it's this young. This is a Douglas Fir. It's a stem of a Douglas Fir, and it looks like it had been mangled earlier on, is probably, when it was younger, something that the bull elk used to rub the velvet off their antlers. I'm on the lower portion of the steep slope that's closed canopy fir and Doug fir. And this is a baby Doug fir here, right to the elk poop around there. It's right on an elk trail. I don't know how long it's going to last. But I'm taking this picture because look at this. This is the biggest Doug fir I've seen on this slope. Really ginormous. I'll go straight up here. Oh, and that's a white fir right next to me, but gets very tall. Fortunately, no lightning yet, I think. I'll patch in a picture if I have it. I think I took one of Michael hugging the tree a few days ago when we found it. But I would imagine that long ago this area was logged of its Doug fir and ponderosa, since they're excellent trees for building houses. Maybe there was a tremendous amount of cattle back here at one point, but whatever, this forest has very much recovered, and you have a variety of ages of the white fir and Doug fir all around here as I spin around. And I'll walk over here just because this is, I'm not going to go up here, but this is a elk freeway in terms of this path. And there it continues on. So that's it for my forest exploration. Let's go back down to my temporary little camp. I'm back down at the forest edge, and here's a useful place to pause. Because here you see a lot of baby and juvenile white fir. And there's a two-stemmed ponderosa pine, and I don't know if you can see, but there's a lot of the needles are brown and missing. I walked around it. I didn't see any sign of lightning, certainly no beetle exit holes. It has sustained some injuries on it. But this is a good place to consider what happens. How does climate change manifest in terms of reducing a species' edge, be it a microclimate area like this, where they don't head off into the grassland? What do we expect to see? Well, for some of them, it would be that the mature trees are just too tall, require too much water, and they're the first ones to die. And it could be that young ones keep being able to establish in certain, not every year, but certain years where you get rainfall at the right time for the seedlings to grow and be nourished. But it may be at some point that as they grow tall, they too succumb to not having enough water. So it's just a good thing for people to think about. How would you notice? How would you notice if the climate shift is moving up mountain here? How would we notice if the white fir and the ponderosa pine, and certainly the Douglas fir, which seems to be the most vulnerable of all, needs to move up slope? And there isn't that much slope to go. I'll patch in a photograph here of basically this north-facing slope. I'm packing up now at the ponderosa pine tree on this north-facing slope, and the wind is starting to pick up, and so I want to be over on the south-facing slope when nature calls, and I sure hope it will. There is no way that I was able to distribute 300 seeds. More than 300 seeds is what I swallowed yesterday at lunch. There just weren't that many that I distributed, so there's got to be another increment. Also, this is a very small slope here, and so my guess is going to be it's mostly Rocky Mountain Juniper, that kind of bluish color in there, with a few scattered ponderosa pine, and I would guess no Doug fir at all, probably no white fir, because again, that is not just a south-facing slope, but there's not a lot of elevation there for water that to drain down into from snow melt and then from rains. So let's go over and explore the trees first and hope that nature calls, because I want to put in some probably, well, let's see, I'll walk over there here. You can see there's a gully that goes up the center there, and to the right of it, a few trees, and then the trees wave out there, but I want to get some mixed into that area. And then I've also got some regular berries with me, Alligator Juniper berries that I'm planning on just cracking in my mouth and pulling out the seeds and planting them as a control case over here to see if there's any difference in germination, establishment, whether for assisted migration you really do want to have excrement and run it through a digestive system. So that will be the controls over there, but I'm only going to do that and crack the seeds open if nature calls me over here.